Imagine a world with unlimited food, clean water, no predators, no disease, and a safe place to sleep. For a mouse, it sounds like paradise. But inside one famous experiment, paradise ended with every mouse dead. The experiment became known as Universe 25. It was created by American researcher John B. Calhoun, who spent decades studying how rodents behaved in crowded environments. In 1968, he placed 4 pairs of mice inside a carefully designed enclosure. Food and water would not run out. The temperature was controlled. Nesting spaces lined the walls. Nothing could enter and hunt them. The mice had almost everything they needed, except one thing. They could never leave. At first, the colony grew slowly. The animals explored the enclosure, established territories, built nests, and adapted to their new world. Then reproduction accelerated. The population doubled again and again. From inside the enclosure, the experiment appeared to be working exactly as intended. This is the part of the story that makes Universe 25 so unsettling. The collapse did not begin with famine. It began while food was still available. As the colony expanded, the mice were not distributed evenly. Some areas became socially crowded, while other spaces remained underused. Dominant males controlled desirable territory. Weaker animals were pushed into exposed common areas. Encounters became harder to avoid. A mouse trying to eat, rest, mate, or care for young could be repeatedly interrupted by other mice. Calhoun was studying more than the number of bodies inside a box. He was interested in social density, how often animals were forced into contact, how stable roles formed, and what happened when normal patterns of behavior stopped working. The first visible damage appeared in the nests. Some mothers became erratic. They moved their young repeatedly, neglected them, or abandoned them. Infant mortality rose. Young mice that survived often grew up without the stable behavior they would normally learn from adults. At the same time, aggression became disorganized. Some males attacked constantly. Others withdrew and stopped defending territory. Injured and isolated animals gathered in crowded central spaces, even though quieter areas existed elsewhere. The colony was not simply packed shoulder to shoulder. Its social world was breaking into fragments. Then appeared the animals Calhoun called the beautiful ones. These mice withdrew from competition almost completely. They did not fight for status. They did not court mates. They did not raise young. They spent much of their time eating, sleeping, and grooming, so their fur remained unusually clean and unscarred. Physically, they looked healthy. Socially, they had stepped out of mouse society. That image made the experiment famous. Beautiful animals living in comfort, yet no longer participating in the behaviors needed to keep the colony alive. The population eventually reached a peak of roughly 2,200 mice. The enclosure still contained food. Water still flowed, but births slowed, then nearly stopped. More young died than survived. The colony passed a point from which it never recovered. Even when population density later fell and physical space opened again, normal social behavior did not return. The surviving mice had grown up in a damaged environment. Many had never learned stable courtship, parenting, territorial defense, or cooperation. More room could not recreate the missing social structure. Calhoun described this as a kind of two-stage death. First came the death of complex social behavior. Biological extinction followed later. By the early 1970s, Universe 25 was finished. The population that had once exploded toward thousands declined to zero. It is tempting to turn this into a simple moral. Abundance makes societies weak, crowded cities cause collapse, or humans will follow the same path. That is how Universe 25 is often presented online. But the experiment does not prove any of those claims. Mice are not miniature humans. They cannot redesign their institutions, invent new social roles, move to another city, negotiate laws, or understand the experiment in closing them. Human communities often adapt to density through culture, technology, architecture, and cooperation. Some of the most crowded places on Earth are also highly organized and socially resilient. The word utopia is also misleading. Universe 25 provided material resources, but it did not provide freedom, novelty, meaningful control over space, or the ability to escape unwanted encounters. It was a closed system built by an observer. Plenty of food did not make it psychologically ideal. There are also limits to drawing broad conclusions from one dramatic colony. Calhoun conducted many rodent studies, and researchers have debated how strongly his results apply outside those specific environments. The design of the enclosure, the strain of mice, social learning, and the lack of dispersal all mattered. So why does the experiment still grip us? Because it challenges an assumption that feels obvious. If material needs are satisfied, a society should automatically flourish. Universe 25 suggests that survival is not only about calories and shelter. Social animals also depend on stable relationships, learned behavior, workable roles, privacy, and some control over when contact happens. When those systems collapse, resources alone may not repair them. The experiment also shows why a population can keep growing after serious damage has already begun. From a distance, the rising number of mice looked like success. Inside the nests, the next generation was already failing. By the time the population curve turned downward, the deeper collapse had been developing for a long time. That may be the most useful lesson for humans, not a prophecy of extinction, but a warning about measurement. A society can look prosperous on paper, while loneliness, trust, caregiving, or community quietly deteriorate. Numbers can describe how many individuals are present without revealing whether their social world is healthy. Calhoun believed his mice were showing something important about crowded life. His language was dramatic, and some of his conclusions went far beyond what the experiment could securely prove. But the central mystery remains powerful. The mice were protected from hunger, weather, and predators. Their world removed the obvious threats to survival, yet it could not give them a functioning society. Universe 25 did not show that paradise is impossible. It showed that paradise cannot be built from food and walls alone.